Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor, a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I share these What's for Dinner videos every Sunday to hopefully motivate you to cook more for your family and give you some new meal ideas. Real quick before we get into this week's video, I wanted to go ahead and wish all the moms watching a happy Mother's Day. I hope you have a great day. We actually celebrated Mother's Day last Sunday because Andy has to work this Sunday. So they spoiled me last Sunday. They got me breakfast, got me lunch, and made me dinner. And they got me all kinds of gifts. Legos, some stuff for the kitchen, some new lawn chairs, which you saw if you saw the vlog. But just happy Mother's Day to all the moms. You work hard and you deserve a day of rest. I will just be spending this day with the kids at home, just chilling, probably playing video games. But I'm going to go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Friday night we had some steak burrito bowls. I am using this meat that Andy picked up a while back from Kroger. It was on markdown. Him and Lily had gone to Kroger by themselves when like his tire was getting fixed or something. But this meat is called like chopped steak or something. It says like great for tacos, and that's what it usually looks like when we find it at Kroger. So I just took that, threw it in a skillet with some taco seasoning, and let that brown up. I like to cook it on like a medium-high heat. It gets the meat just a little bit crispy, and we just really like the way it tastes when it's just a little bit crispy. And then I also made some black beans, and that was it. We had some white rice that I turned into cilantro lime rice, which is really easy. You just take the cooked white rice and add in some lime juice, lemon juice, and chopped cilantro and some salt and pepper. I've shared that before. I will leave it linked down below for y'all. We had some chips on the side, cheese on top, pico, sour cream, some salsa, and guacamole. These are delicious, very similar to like Chipotle, but much cheaper at home. Next up, I made this chicken and stuffing bake. I usually make something similar to this in the crock pot, but I wanted to try it in the oven. Usually I just do the chicken breast whole in the crock pot, but it can make it a little bit difficult to like serve it up. Like you can't really see like what you're getting because it's going to be underneath stuffing. So I decided to chop up my chicken breast into little bite-sized pieces, and I seasoned them all over with some garlic powder, onion salt, and some pepper, and then I mix that around. And then I like to top it with some pepper jack cheese. I've seen people do no cheese, and I've also seen people do like Swiss cheese. We prefer it with pepper jack. It gives it just a little bit of spice, but not too much. And then I'm going to mix together like the sauce or like the gravy kind of thing. I did 1.5 cups of water, and then I mixed in some Knorr chicken bouillon to make it into like a chicken broth, and then about 1/2 cup of milk and 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Whisked that together really well, and then I poured that over top of the pepper jack cheese. And then I'm adding on 2 boxes of stuffing. Some people only do 1 box. We like to do 2 because then you have like a really good amount of stuffing. And so I did the 2 boxes on top of there, and then a step that I forgot is to put some melted butter on top. It's okay, I ended up adding it later, but typically I would put the butter on top and then put the foil on top and then stick it in the oven. And I stuck it in the oven for 25 minutes with the foil on, and then I took the foil off, added on my butter, and stuck it back in for another 10 minutes. And then this is how it turned out. It was nice and browned. The stuffing was a little bit crispy on top, but underneath it was nice and soft stuffing. And it was just so good. It was like chicken and stuffing and kind of gravy, and then we had some green beans on the side. It turned out really well. I'll definitely continue making it in the crock pot sometimes, but not all the time. Sunday night we had spaghetti. This was when we celebrated Mother's Day. So Andy and the kids actually made the spaghetti. So I got a little clip of Andy and Lily seasoning the ground beef. That was the only clip that I got. But Elijah also did the garlic bread. And in the background behind Andy, you can see there's some cookies. Lily and I had made some chocolate chip cookies earlier in the day. She did most of the work, like mixing it together and whatnot. So yeah, that was how we spent our Mother's Day. They got me Martin's for breakfast, and then pizza for lunch, and then we had spaghetti for dinner, and it was great. I didn't have to cook anything at all for the whole day. Monday night we had Cuban sandwiches. This was a new recipe that I was trying, and I'm going to link it down below for y'all. My pork butt that I have in the crock pot was way bigger than the one that she said in the recipe, so I kind of had to adapt it. I couldn't use as much broth as she had said. She said 5 cups of broth, and that was just not going to fit in my crock pot. So I ended up doing like 2 cups of chicken broth, and then we did about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, about a tablespoon of brown sugar, half a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, some garlic powder and onion powder and pepper. And then I forgot the chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, so I didn't do that, but I would recommend following the recipe. It still turned out delicious. I put a lid on this and let it cook on low for like 10 hours. It literally cooked all day. And as you can see, mine was too big. It was like almost overflowing my crock pot, but it turned out super tender. I pulled the meat out of the crock pot because there was a lot of liquid in there, and then just removed the bone and any big pieces of fat and shredded that up. And then we're using some ciabatta bread to make our sandwiches. You want to do some mustard on one side. The recipe called for stone ground mustard, but I just used regular yellow mustard. And then we've got some mayonnaise on the other side. The kids didn't want any mustard, so I didn't do that on theirs. They also didn't want pickle, but a Cuban does traditionally have pickle on it, so I did pickle on mine. And then some Swiss cheese on the top, and then a bunch of that pulled pork. And then I put these in the air fryer for about 5 minutes on 350 just to get that cheese nice and melty. We served this with some chips on the side, and the kids had their pickles on the side. They did not want them on the sandwich. They like pickles, just not on sandwiches. And I liked this the way it was with the pickle and the cheese and everything. It was delicious, and we have a ton of leftover pulled pork. I froze 2 quart-sized bags of this pork that we will use in future recipes. Next up for Tuesday, we had goulash. I have been making this recipe for years. It has its own recipe video that I think I put up before I even started doing What's for Dinner videos 5 years ago. So I am starting off with a pound of ground beef here, and I'm seasoning it with just a little bit of salt and pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder, and I'm just gonna get that browned up. And then when it's about halfway browned, I'm going to add in some diced onion and garlic. I did about half of an onion and about 3 cloves of garlic. And then I just continue cooking that until the onions start to soften and the meat is fully cooked. Then I'm going to add in 1.5 cups of water, 8 ounces of tomato sauce, 1 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes. I like to do the petite diced tomatoes. And then I do some Italian seasoning, some adobo seasoning. I do some beef bouillon to turn that water into broth, 2 bay leaves, and some salt and pepper. And then I put a lid on this and let it simmer over a medium heat for about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I add in 1 cup of elbow macaroni, and then I put the lid back on this and let it simmer for about another 10 minutes or until that elbow macaroni is fully cooked. After 10 minutes, it looked like most of the water was absorbed, so I checked my noodles, removed my bay leaves, and my noodles were done. And so then you start adding in your cheese. I like to do cheddar, and I mix that in, and then I top it with some mozzarella, and then I put a lid back on this with the heat off just until all of that mozzarella on top has melted, and then this is ready to eat. It is so good. My dad's version of goulash growing up was him just throwing a bunch of random stuff together, but I much prefer this. It is delicious, and as I said, I've been making it for years now, like at least 5 years. And we always like to serve it with just like a slice of buttered bread or a roll on the side. And yeah, definitely a family favorite. Wednesday night, I made shrimp scampi couscous, and I have already made this before, and it is delicious, and I recommend trying it if you like shrimp. So in a bowl, I have 1 pound of shrimp. I buy the kind from Sam's Club that is already peeled and deveined and tails off and all that. This makes it super easy. And to that, I'm adding about a tablespoon of olive oil, about 2 cloves of minced garlic, the juice from half of a lemon, and some salt and pepper, and I just tossed that around and made sure my shrimp got nice and coated. If you have time, you can also put this in the fridge and let it marinate for about 30 minutes to an hour, but I was in a rush to make dinner, so mine only sat for like 10 minutes on the counter while I cut stuff up. While I was working on my shrimp, I was also bringing some salted water to a boil so that I could cook up 2 cups of pearled couscous or Israeli couscous, and you're just going to cook that according to the package directions. Next up, in a large skillet, I am heating 1 tablespoon of olive oil to cook our shrimp in, and then once that was hot, I added all of the shrimp, including all of the lemon juice and garlic. I added that to the skillet, and I let it cook for about a minute per side. The shrimp do not have to be fully cooked at this point. You just want to get them like mostly cooked through, and then we're going to be removing them from the pan. Some of you might notice this is a new pan that I'm using. This was one of my Mother's Day gifts. I just asked for a very large skillet with a lid that could go in the oven because I did get some new pots and pans for Christmas, but the largest skillet just wasn't large enough for some of the things I want to cook, so I asked for this, and it's Gotham steel. It's ceramic coated, which is supposed to last longer and be better for you. So yeah, that's why I got this one, and I have found it on Amazon, and it will be linked in my store if you are interested in that. Once all the shrimp was removed from the pan, I added in a couple cloves of sliced garlic and then just a little bit of red pepper flakes, and I let that cook for about a minute. And then I added in some chicken broth. The recipe calls for white wine, but instead I do 2/3 of a cup of chicken broth, and then the rest of the juice from the lemon. And then you just let that cook for a couple more minutes, about 2 to 3 minutes, until it has slightly reduced. Then I'm going to add in some butter. I did half a stick of butter, and I just let that cook until the butter was melted and the sauce starts to slightly thicken. This took about 5 minutes. And then I'm just going to add my shrimp back into the pan, let that simmer for about 2 minutes, make sure the shrimp is fully cooked. And then I stirred in my cooked couscous, topped this with a little bit of dried parsley, and it was done, ready to serve. To serve it, I just topped it with a little bit of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, a little bit more dried parsley, and then we had some lemon wedges on the side to squeeze over top. As I said before, we've had this before and it is delicious. I definitely will make this again. Thursday night, we tried a new recipe for lamb, meatballs, and veggies. This is a sheet pan dinner. I'm always looking for new recipes to try with different meats and stuff that we like. And we like lamb, but there's not that many meals that we've tried with lamb, so this one was a new one for us. I'm starting off by cutting up a bunch of veggies and just throwing them on my sheet pan. I'm doing some sliced onion, sliced zucchini. I'm mincing up some garlic. I did some mini sweet peppers, and I'm just cutting all that up and then tossing it on my sheet pan. And then I'm also going to toss on some grape tomatoes, and then I'm going to season all that with some salt and pepper and drizzle it with some olive oil and get that coated like really well. And then I put the veggies in the oven for 10 minutes on 425 to just let those like start roasting while I work on making my meatballs. For my meatballs, I have 1 pound of ground lamb, and to that I'm going to add in some garlic powder and onion, salt, and pepper. And then I added in 1/4 a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 1/2 a cup of seasoned breadcrumbs, 1/4 a cup of water, and 1 egg. And then I just got in there with my hands and mixed this together really well. And once it was all mixed together, I started rolling it out into meatballs. I think I did about 1.5-inch size meatballs. The recipe said to do 2-inch meatballs, but I thought that they would just be too big, so I made them just a little bit smaller. I think I ended up getting like 15 meatballs. After the veggies had been in the oven for 10 minutes, I tossed them around, flipped some of the pieces over, and it kind of made room for my meatballs. And I just put them on there, kind of mixed throughout, like kind of just randomly nestled them in there with the veggies. And then this went back in the oven on 425 for another 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I checked the internal temperature of the meatballs and they were cooked all the way through. So then I put them under the broiler for just a couple minutes to get everything a little bit more browned. And then this is how it looked when it came out. I served this on top of some orzo. I just put some butter and salt and pepper in that orzo. And then I topped this with some feta cheese and banana peppers for myself. The kids just did feta cheese. And this was delicious. Very much like Greek inspired. And we all loved it. We loved the lamb. We loved the new take on a lamb dish for us. But that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. I hope that you got some new meal ideas. If you did, let me know in the comments down below which ones you plan on trying. And as I said at the beginning, I wish all the mothers watching a happy Mother's Day. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!